One of the most rewarding things about what I do in covering anime is finding titles that many people didn't give a shot. Titles that, based on different databases and membership counts, didn't really get much attention, and thus the birth of the Anime You May Have Missed video series. This is part 2 in this series, so another 5 anime that, again, you may have missed and you should check out. As always, let me know down in the comments down below any anime titles you believe didn't get enough attention that should get attention. So with that said, let's jump into this 5 anime titles that you may have missed. For my first title I have here is Kagewane. Now, every time I do some sort of horror-based anime coverage, I usually mention Kagewane. And every single time I mention the fact that this isn't the most pretty looking show. This is a show of pretty much just stills, but what I really love about this series is it's always managed to pull off a sense of suspense. I usually find that whenever anime does horror, it doesn't really do it in a way that I find to be very suspenseful, but Kagewane was a rare example of pulling that off. That feeling of dread of the unknown. Again, I put out the warning that it's not the greatest looking show, but again, for what it's kind of offering, these very kind of short cases of this one guy looking into these mysterious horrors, it's always done it so well. Now, granted, I will say also the second season was a huge downer for me. When I love the first season and everything that it did and what it presented, I feel like the second season just really kind of missed the mark, and it got more into, okay, what's creating these and these political things, and it's basically the super spy guy taking down the organization. It really didn't live up to those episode by episode cases of this guy researching these mysterious monsters. So yeah, if you're looking for a solid horror-based show with some suspense in it, and you don't mind, yes, a little bit less in the animation department, I definitely recommend you checking out Kagewane. Moving on to my next one I have is Yuyu Life. Now, this is a very special show for me. I really did enjoy this series. It's very so much into the realm of working life, slice of life type show with a lot of sprinkle of comedy throughout it. At face value, it just seemed like it was going to be a cute girls doing cute things, and that's really all it was going to do. But shockingly, it did a lot more than that. It was, again, very slice of life, but it was a nice look into the industry of seiyus. For those that don't know, seiyus are voice actors and voice actresses. And this particular series follows 3 aspiring voice actors as they try to get into the industry itself. And it follows them as they go through their daily routine and getting into the voice acting world, but at the same time having all these little additional things like radio dramas and stuff that they do. But what was really cool about this series, and I think this is one of those things where if you're really into your seiyus, if you're really into voice actors and voice actresses, I think this is a really cool story outside of learning about what they deal with on a daily basis, well, you know, in a more fun way, and it's not going super serious, but it was cool because it felt like the creators themselves were trying to get into the realm of the experiences and those that are around them that kind of support them. And where this kind of evolves into is having a lot of actual seiyus helping the characters as they go along. Having special guests like Yui Horie, having Rie Kajimiya in there as well, which was a absolute treat for me. They even had the voice of Goku himself come in there and again give some information and some advice to these characters. It was kind of like them bringing these fictional characters and almost bridging them to reality and having these special guests come in and give them insights in the industry and giving them a little pep talk that they need. It was an absolute treat for me, and like I said before, if you're into seiyus and voice acting, I highly recommend Yuyu Life. It was an absolute treat. Moving on to my next one I have is Scrap Princess. Now, this is a series that's very near and dear to me. This is a series that when I watched it originally, I absolutely adored it. It was enough that when I realized that there was no real physical copies out there, I was just yelling at all these companies, somebody rescue license Scrap Princess. And thankfully, Funimation kind of finally came around to it and was able to pull it back out of the pits of license hell, but I really do love Scrap Princess, and there was multiple reasons for that. It kind of opens up very seriously in this idea that there is this girl, Pacifica, and as she is getting older, there's a prophecy that when she turns 16, she will become like the thing that will bring about the destruction of the world. There's a prophecy laid out. She's called the Scrap Princess, and they're going to kill her. For the sake of their own survivability, her own kingdom is going to have her killed. And so, being as her 2 bodyguards, Raquel and Shannon, don't really like this idea, they decide to fight back, swoop up Pacifica, and run off together. And they kind of survive on their own, hiding from the kingdom. And along the way, there's a lot of people that are sent to basically find her and kill her. And it turns into this whole thing of almost a cat and mouse, but at the same time, people realizing that Pacifica is just a girl and that she deserves to live. Now, granted, the later parts of the story gets pretty crazy with mechas and everything, but I really did enjoy the ending. The ending really had me bawling my eyes out. I just love the character so much. Pacifica was really good. I really enjoyed Wakureo. She's like this sister that's like super powerful, and she doesn't really kind of show any signs of acknowledging that. Shannon obviously was really super cool. He was probably one of the best guys in this entire series, but just a really great cast of characters. And again, a main character who's kind of discarded from society that you really do kind of root for. You really kind of desire for her to survive that date when she'll finally get to 16. And again, the question mark comes up is, would she create the destruction of the world? The unknown is there. Is the prophecy real? And again, does she deserve to die for the sake of others? It's the whole idea of, would you weigh one life over everybody else's, and what does it make the people that survive that would be willing to kill that person? But again, it's a great series. I highly recommend it. It was done by Studio Bones. It was really well put together, if I remember correctly, visually, so definitely recommend it. Moving on to my next one, I have a title that's probably a little more controversial, and that's Kato the Right Answer. Now, this is a series that when it aired, I really, really loved this series. Now, obviously, the point of issues for a lot of people getting in this series was that it was CGI. I think it was an okay CGI. Yes, it's not one of the better ones, but what really kind of was the driving force for me loving this series wasn't the visual design or anything like that. It was in the story and the atmosphere that it was kind of creating for me as I watched it. Now, yes, have your issues with the ending or not, it's not really my concern. That's not really the point in which I was really invested in the show itself. I think it was a fine ending. I think the draw for me was the journey itself, which I was extremely fascinated by. It takes place in Japan when this random object just appears out of nowhere. And from this object comes an alien life form with some advanced technology and knowledge. Being as mankind is in the state that it is, it's kind of offering, look, I can offer you these things that will make your life better. I can give you ways of being able to have energy with no end to it. All these things that you all suffer for, I can give it to you. And what I found so fascinating by this was equally the idea of what society would do when presented with something like this, but additionally how the different nations react to, technically Japan having this one source there that could change everything. And additionally, on top of that, there was an element of an unlocking that they were kind of presenting. There was this one moment, and this is one of those things that solidify this as being something that I absolutely loved. There was this one moment where they present to basically the entire world, I'm going to open up this box, and if you view the insides of this box, the contents of this box, it will unlock something in your brain and make you smarter, essentially. It will unlock this limit that you have within yourself. And I found it very interesting, this idea of almost connecting it to real life. Like, what would happen if there was a broadcast like on television? Would you watch it? Would you be willing to basically gaze upon something that could essentially change how you think and open up your mind more than it actually is, to unlock that potential in your brain? So yes, maybe it was me making it into something a lot more than it actually was, this idea of really kind of thinking about how the real world itself would react to a lot of this stuff, but it was the reason why I loved it so much. It was that mystery, that unknown of what would I do in this situation that really did drive me to really love Kato the Right Answer. And again, I think I was like one of the few people in the anime sphere that was like, oh my gosh, I love this show so much, but I definitely recommend it to people. If any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. And if the last one wasn't controversial enough, why not add another one in here? How Clumsy You Are, Miss Ueno. I wanted to put at least one comedy in here, and this is definitely another one of those ones where, yes, it got a lot of attention, more than I thought it would. It wasn't enough, and I think there was a lot to really have here. And one of the things that really brings this show up a lot for me lately is because of, obviously, the fandom around Miss Nagatoro. That was a series that really took over the anime sphere for quite a while, and it's around the concept of a teasing girl. This girl that's after somebody, obviously, but there's a little bit of a will they, won't they there in how she's kind of constantly teasing at them. And obviously, it's a concept that's not really new to me with things like Teasing Master Takagi-san, but Miss Ueno is additionally another one of those series, but kind of in a different route. Now, this is one that's a little bit more, yes, ecchi and raunchy in a lot of ways, but it's a very nice little short comedy, about 12 minutes per episode, that follows a girl who's essentially trying to do everything she can to grab and use the attention of this boy that she likes. They're part of this junior high science club, and Ueno, the main character, she's basically trying to use these experiments that she's creating in the science lab to, again, rope this Tanaka guy into the club and to experiment on him while trying to essentially get them together in some way. And yes, it gets really bad with things like trying to get him to drink her fluids and all these other just really, again, ecchi and raunchy things that she's essentially trying to do to kind of get him involved with. That manipulation, that embarrassment that she has, doing things to get his attention and get him to do things that ultimately will just kind of throw her off is really great. I mean, to give another example, they have this whole kind of thing, this experimental thing that she's creating that will flag people who are train gropers. And yes, she wants him to test it. And obviously there's a reason why she even created it, was just to get him to touch her. It's absolutely dorky. It's absurd. Again, it's a little bit more in the ecchi and raunchy area, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun, and I really did enjoy it. She even creates an Ueno bot that she eventually gets jealous of. But anyways, that is my next 5 titles that you may have missed that you probably should check out. If any of those sound interesting to you, I definitely recommend you check them out. And definitely let me know down in the comments down below if you did check them out and if you enjoyed them or not. I love hearing back from you guys. And there's nothing more rewarding to me than hearing people go, you said this about this show, I went and checked it out, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very much so a rewarding thing for me. But as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want more of these, I will definitely be making more in the future. So definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hit that like button down below if you enjoy this video. And if you'd like to support us additionally, we have a Patreon and a tips link in the description below, and also a link to our Discord. And with all that said, I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.